Hi there. My name is Joe Quintana, and here with me today is hgkc co-founder and one of our expert consultants, Kim Jones. Hi, Kim. How are you?
Hi, Joe. It's really nice to see you today.
And today we are going to talk about innovation. So, first thing I'd like to ask you, Kim, is how would you define innovation?
Well, there's been an awful lot of definitions around, and some are quite formalised, ones that you see from government departments because they give out funding. So they describe them in quite long sort of sentences. So we find that something short and pithy is more useful, particularly for people in business. And we've adopted a definition from some fabulous people who've written a book called Eat, Sleep, Innovate. It's a great book. And here it comes. It is something different that creates value. That's really short. And what's really important in that definition, that it's something different, not new, because what we want people to think about is taking something that you already have as a working practice or a product or service and apply some different thinking to it or a different process from something you may already do, but you're going to put it in a different context. So that's an innovation. It doesn't have to be, rocket science and moon shoot type things. It really can be as simple as that. So something different that creates value, and the value bit's important. It must reduce the cost, increase the revenue, increase happiness, a value of some sort to your business.
And if it doesn't create value, it's not an innovation.
It isn't, no, it's just an improvement, a business improvement perhaps, or something that might give you a little incremental gain, but it's not necessarily an innovation.
So, why is innovation important to businesses?
I like to think of it as a bit like blood flowing around the body. It's a really good way to think about it. If you think of it on a global scale, at the macro level, it drives growth and change. All the things that make everything work, both in global economies, industries, and even in businesses. So in a lot of ways, it affects all aspects of life. It might not be as visible as we think, but it's really about solving problems. So that's why it's really important. So on a micro level, if you get right down to a business, it's about an organization and business staying relevant, staying in the game, front of mind of their customers or their users. And it's also around sustaining that business. So it might not be what we call growth in terms of massive, but it must stay on top of that to be sustainable, to keep that business going and sustain things for their products, for their customers, and also around the competition, because we all have competition. There are other ways of solving the problems that we solve for customers. So there are other alternatives. So keeping ours front of mind and changing and innovating is a really important part of how businesses work.
So would you say businesses need to be open to change even in times of success?
Oh, definitely. In fact, resting on your laurels is a really serious sort of blind spot really for people. We use a horizon model in terms of getting people to think of things which are close to that they're working on now, and also those next generation and even their blue sky projects, which are much further out. It's really important to see your whole innovation culture, your whole framework that you've got, so that you've got change going on in your business, both at an organizational level, perhaps at a cultural level in the way you work, and also in the products and services that you sell.
In light of the past couple of years and how difficult it's been for businesses, how would you say an innovative business should prepare for the future?
I think what I've observed a lot over the last few years is what is innovation to firms. So we have to think of all types of businesses here. So you've got businesses with really long life cycles in terms of their products and services. So if you think of things like renewable energy and aerospace and some of the technologies, they've got a really long process and need deep expertise. And then they have lots of specialist teams to do that. But in lots of businesses, it's much more simpler, shorter life cycles. And a lot of the gains that they can have, not just in their time to market and speeding things up, but also in their whole business. So getting things down to a cultural level for each individual business, so it's everybody. So we think of innovation as a team sport and a company sport. It's for everybody. And that kind of is I suppose one of our mantras at hgkc is that it's for everyone and everyone should have an opportunity to take part. So the biggest challenge is how do you embed that in your culture? Because we've got people at the front line who can inform us of things that could be different and change. I've seen some amazing innovations, both in healthcare innovation, in lots of food, delivery, all of these services, over the last 18 months in particular, over how people have responded to the pandemic and switching and transitioning. It's bringing it right down to getting everybody involved and embedding that and changing the way they look at their values and their behaviours and even how they recruit. You need curious, nosy people who ask questions, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing. Much more openness to collaboration, both within the firm and outside the firm, and doing things differently. We saw some amazing things during the pandemic, with distilleries making hand sanitizer, making incredible switches to solve a problem that was needed. They had complementary technologies and ways of doing things, and they could make a switch. Those are the sorts of things I'm thinking of. But I think one of the things that the most successful firms have is an obsession with the customer. How do we solve this problem? How do we add value? What are the jobs that the customer wants done? How are we doing them? How are we responding to them? And anticipating that need as well. In order to do that, you've got to empower your people. And people say they are empowered, but really liberating your people to do that. Have safety in terms of failure and trying things out, those types of activities, and putting infrastructure and technology in as well as opportunity to come together and work on things. And we know that's been very difficult over the last 2 years in terms of creating physical space to do this kind of work, but we've seen lots of platforms come and respond to that, in terms of innovation platforms, things like Euro and Miro, and even embedded through some of the systems we use, like even Microsoft Teams today.
So then, in light of all that, what are the greatest challenges for an innovative business?
Well, we all know that complexity is, one of our biggest problems in businesses. We have a very complex world right now in terms of thinking how we're responding to long-term implications of COVID and the way of working. We are right in the middle of COP26 on looking at the implications of that, and we have a talent crisis. All this is happening while other big things are changing as well, such as the impact of digital disruption, global economies, and right down to the individual firm. So there's a lot of complexity going on here, a lot of change, and a lot of things to stay on top of. And I think firms really need to approach a much open diversity of thinking and how they approach problems. So what I did before might not serve me in the future in terms of who they employ. So I think the talent issue is quite interesting in terms of broadening the sorts of people that you might have hired in the past to who you'd hire in the future, and changing some of the frameworks and approaches that they would have to solving problems. I think one of the big issues externally firms face is funding, access to money at the right time, whether it's debt or whether it's investment, and particularly in the smaller firms in the SME sector, where we focus at hgkc in helping those businesses, because they really are an innovative core. They're doing a lot of collaboration and working with bigger firms, but they've got to be able to be funded to do that as well, and where that source comes from. I think we do get a little complacent, if we're doing well in particular, because challenge is risky. It takes us way, way out of our comfort zone. So I think people who are able to bring their vision to life, to work with their firms and to open this out, to be more collaborative, to get more people involved, are the ones that will respond best to the challenges of the next 2 or 3 years, which will be very significant for us in the UK.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Kim, for sharing your knowledge. You've provided some really useful insight into innovation. So if you are struggling with innovation and need some help with your business, you can get in touch with hgkc today and have more help from some of our expert consultants.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.